I worked on Sicke the past couple of nights after finishing my Cecropia moth. I had to move this down in the Q-snap so that I could get to the bottom of it. Basically, I've stitched the moon and this star, these little boxes, these stars, which now I realize I think this is a star actually. But when I looked at it earlier, when I stitched it, I couldn't figure out what it was. I've brought down the sides of the border, and then yesterday while I was on a Zoom, I worked on filling in this bottom band. It's got all the phases of the moon, and then it's just filled in with black. So I figured all that fill-in was perfect for chit-chatting. So I just need to finish this band and then stitch the lady, and then this piece is done. Really happy with it. Super excited to be able to finish another piece too. So trying to decide what I'm going to stitch on next, but also trying to stay in the moment and just enjoy this. Well, it is Wednesday, I think. I still haven't managed to get my week 2 vlog videos put together, but that's just the way things are going. But I did manage to finish Sicke. Primitive needle, obviously well out of print, and this has been on my list to stitch forever, so I'm really, really happy to have it finished. Really happy. I'm glad I stitched it. Glad I finished it. And my fabric is, I did not iron it, so there's a little crease right here, bump from my Q-snap. Just love it. I did this on 40 count Duxbury by Fox and Rabbit. The pattern calls for silken colors, and I just did my own conversion to silks I had on hand. Really happy with it. So while I was finishing this up, I was trying to decide what to work on next. I was planning on working on my Black Cat Hollow by Barbara Anna, but I watched a video from Sucks for Mom yesterday, and she talked about working on her whips, which of course that's kind of my priority. It's working on my whips, trying to get stuff knocked out. And I'd also been kind of feeling the pull to work on something other than Black Cat Hollow. I was actually feeling the pull to work on my Dracula book cover. And that is a really, really good representation of the fabric color. I love this. So here's the piece. Very simple. This was a freebie at one point. I don't think it's still available, but I love it. So I'm going to work on this for 2 reasons. One, I'm feeling the pull to work on it, and I think part of that is because I am taking a class on Bram Stoker's Dracula the movie tomorrow evening, and it's one of my favorite films. So I tend to watch it every year on Halloween, and so I'm just feeling the pull towards working on this. And I'm also, I think, feeling the pull to work on it because I'm reading The Historian right now, which is related. So that's part of what's got me heading in that direction. And I'm also kind of thinking I might be able to finish it. That may be wishful thinking, but because that's a whole lot of moon. But I think I'm going to go for it, because it would be awesome to have 3 finishes in October. Really awesome. And my Black Cat Hollow is nowhere near finished. I'm like halfway through part 1, and there's 3 parts. So I'm just going to go for it and work on this. I had another class with Susan from Professor of Words, and what we talked about was Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is one of my favorite films of all time. Apologies if you can hear my cat snoring. So I realized that, one of the things that we talked about in the class was obviously the acting in in the movie is not 100%, right? It's lacking a little bit. But what I love about the movie is the costumes and the sets and the overall, you know, the way that they've told the story. I think it's a beautiful film, a beautiful Gothic film. So one of the things that we talked about in the class were the costumes, and I have this book that I purchased back around the time that the movie came out, and it is basically the costumes done by Aiko Ishioka. And in the class we talked about that Aiko Ishioka also did the costumes for The Cell, and kind of some of the similarities between the costumes in this movie versus that movie, etc. And some, you know, what was different, what was the same. We also kind of compared and contrasted some of the costumes in this film versus what's the name of that other movie? No, I can't think. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. So I just thought I'd give you kind of a little flip through of this book, you know, not page by page, but oops, maybe just some of the but this book has some really beautiful photos of the costumes and, you know, kind of what went into the design, what the inspiration was, etc. And of course, my favorite costumes from this. I love the dresses that the brides wore. I just think they're beautiful, sensual, sort of ethereal. This final scene with Dracula that has this robe that's very Gustav Klimt inspired. I love that. Lucy's snake dress is one of my absolute favorites. It's such a beautiful, beautiful dress. And then of course, Mina's red dress is another of my favorites. Van Helsing, that was the movie I'm thinking of. Van Helsing, thank you. So we can kind of compared and contrasted the costumes for the brides, specifically like in Van Helsing versus Bram Stoker's Dracula. But look at the detail in this lace. Really beautiful. This dress, this is my favorite. I'm a sucker for a red dress. And we talked a lot about how, you know, his costumes and hers, you know, have a lot of similar elements in them. Her green walking dress has those same vines on it. So Here you can see these vines as well from Elizabetta. So anyway, all in all, it was a really great class. It was fun to be able to talk about this movie because I love this movie so much. It was fun to be able to talk about it with other people. So if you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. Like I said, it's a really beautiful film.